Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Rican Muslim. I'm your host, Rican Muslim. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. So, you know how usury was the story of this country, took us to a recession because of the mortgage crisis, that we're doing obviously illegal things with usury because that's what the West is all about. Well, there may be a chance it might be coming back again. So, figure it out. I will talk about this. So, let's begin.
The subprime bubble 2.0 is about to burst. It turns out that the US government has been making the mortgage payments for hundreds of thousands of defaulted mortgage borrowers using taxpayer dollars, and this was just exposed by the Wall Street Journal. And if it's reversed, it has the potential to cause a massive...
Wait. Hold on, let me see.
The subprime bubble 2.0 is about to burst. It turns out that the US government has been making the mortgage payments for hundreds of thousands of defaulted mortgage borrowers using taxpayer dollars, and this was just exposed by the Wall Street.
Biden's mortgage relief fuels higher housing prices. He has created another subprime housing bubble that put taxpayers at risk. Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Journal. And if it's reversed, it has the potential to cause a massive cataclysmic housing downturn in many cities and neighborhoods across America. And the big issue is the FHA mortgage program, the first-time home buyer mortgage program where you could put 3% down to buy a house. This mortgage program now has a 14% default rate. The default rate's 13.5%. Over 1 million mortgage borrowers on the FHA program are currently in default, and the Biden administration basically was blocking these defaulted mortgages from going to foreclosure. And what the Biden administration was doing was that when a mortgage borrower went in default and claimed financial hardship, they stepped in and made the mortgage payments for them. Or they tacked the mortgage payments onto the back of the loan so the borrower has more debt. And this has been something that's been artificially inflating the housing bubble and preventing the foreclosures and the listings from hitting the market. And some of the things that I'm going to show you in this video are going to absolutely shock you. I was shocked and appalled at some of the things I read about what the US government has been doing. This is one of the biggest scams that the US government has been involved with in decades, in my opinion, because essentially what the government was doing was they were giving this loan program for first-time buyers where your credit score could be as low as 580. You could have a 580 credit score and put 3.5 down, and they would give these borrowers these subprime loans. I mean, these are subprime loans. A bank would never offer these loans without the government backing. And then when that borrower would inevitably default, sometimes within only a year, the government would prevent it from going to foreclosure.
Yeah, I mean, the whole system itself is corrupt. The whole system was meant for just that. It's just to extract money from people, nothing else. I mean, yeah, the whole system it's a house of cards, really. I mean, home prices have been going such a stupidly high level because of how the system has been running for so long that it doesn't even matter. I know people who make I would consider tons of money, and they're having problems owning a home. You know, everything's all about renting because you can't afford anything else. Yeah, the prices are just on a different level, like for no reason whatsoever, except it's all being manufactured for that reason.
Using taxpayer money. Now that this has been exposed by the Wall Street Journal op-ed, which highlighted that Biden's mortgage relief program caused this subprime crisis and that there's an FHA subprime bubble, what's going to happen now? What's the Trump administration and Elon Musk going to do in response? I think particularly an area that could see lower prices if these foreclosures are allowed to happen. There's around 400,000 backlogged foreclosures right now that are being stopped by the US government. I think if they're allowed to happen, we could see prices in a city like Fort Worth, Texas, where I am right now, we could see them drop by a lot. Because there's a lot of FHA mortgage borrowers here in Fort Worth. A lot of people have actually bought in home building communities from builders like D.R. Horton with FHA low down payment mortgages, and a lot of them are now going into default. And so I think we could see lower prices here in Fort Worth. We could see lower prices in a city like Las Vegas. We could see lower prices in Orlando. Those are some of the top markets for FHA mortgages in America and would be some of the ones that are most exposed if these foreclosures are set loose and if the Trump administration does the right thing and turns off this subprime mortgage support offered by the US government. And I think some people in the real estate industry watching this might take issue with me calling these subprime loans. They're going to say, no, Nick, these loans have income documented. They're nothing like the mortgages from the mid-2000s. But the crazy thing, everyone, is that when you look at the credit quality of these mortgages, they're horrible. They're worse than they were in the mid-2000s. The Wall Street Journal has a graph showing the percentage of FHA borrowers who have a debt-to-income ratio above 43%. It's over 2/3.
Yeah, but I think that's everybody almost now. In the U.S., I think everybody's debt-to-income ratio has already ballooned past 50% across the board. And yeah, even I believe even back then, there were still income attached to those loans as well. They were just, but that was a different type of payment scheme they were running with these loans. I mean, the whole system is just all so scheming. It's all ways to try to take people's money. They sell them the idea they could actually own a home, can't afford it, and then they're back to starting over again. They got whatever they can get out of them. Then they just resell the property again to somebody else, and it repeat. It's just churning people's money over and over again. It's never about people owning a home whatsoever. Not anymore.
Over 2/3 of FHA borrowers, when they get the mortgage, have to pay over 43% of their income to debt costs. I want you to think about that. That means pretty much anyone borrowing from the FHA program right now is doing so in a situation where they can't really afford the payments. Back actually in the 90s and 2000s, it was only a quarter of all FHA mortgages had a debt to income above 43%. And some of the stuff that was happening here, folks, was absolutely wild. If you go further into this Wall Street Journal article, they mention how in 2024, mortgage servicers made 552,000 incentive payments to mortgage borrowers to prevent them from getting foreclosed on. Translation, mortgage servicers took money from the US government FHA mortgage program and put it in the pockets of defaulted home owners under the FHA mortgage program who could not make their payments. That is absolutely absurd. What's even more absurd is that in some cases, the government is automatically lowering the mortgage payments for these defaulted borrowers by 25%. If you go to the FHA mortgage website, it says very plainly, if you're in default and claim financial hardship, you could have your payments reduced by 25% with no contact. They could just do it automatically. And I sincerely hope that Scott Turner, the new head of the FHA, sworn in under the Trump administration a couple weeks ago, takes a serious look at what's going on in his department. And so folks, get this. There's 7.8 million FHA mortgages outstanding. That's approximately 17% of all mortgages. So there's 54 million mortgages total. 13% are already in default. And actually, 17% of the mortgages originated in 2022 are in default. So, think about that. 17% of these mortgages originated less than 3 years ago are already in default. The borrower is not making payments. And so if you were curious why home prices haven't dropped by more, why this housing market seemingly still makes no sense in most parts of the country, the buyer demand's way down, the inventory is way up, but the prices haven't really come down in most areas. Well, this is one of the reasons. Your government was actively conspiring to prevent the needed inventory from coming to the market. Excuse me. How's it going? Do you know what's going on with this house over here?
I have no idea. It's being for sale since I moved.
Yeah, I saw they've cut it from like 325 to 280 or something.
I don't know, man.
When did you move in? April. And did you buy it from the builder or was it a resale? Was it D.R. Horton?
Yep.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what's the price range? Your house looks bigger. What's the price range on a house like that?
350.
350. Do you think that's worth 280?
I don't know. I never seen inside the house. I don't know how many rooms they have.
It's a 3x2.
I don't know, bro. I don't know how much it costs.
Yeah. All right, have a good day. So that's interesting, everyone. Even with these foreclosures being prevented from happening,
Nobody really talks about why a house is that expensive to begin with. Why? It is made to segregate people. That's really what it is. To make sure we separate the have-nots. It's never about owning homes. It's only about a certain few who will be able to own a home, and the rest are just going to see, okay, how can we extract how much money can get out of them, so they can get foreclosed on, and then we can resell the property, and so on and so on. That's really how the system is set up. They really only want a certain few select people to be able to own a home. The way the prices are on there, it's ridiculous. Like, especially where I live, it is a houses are going for $250,000. Old beat up houses, in neighborhoods that are not the best on it. They slap some paint on it, and that's what they're selling for. And everybody around it going, who would in the right mind pay for this? $250,000 for this house, and that's what it's going for. Rent is skyrocketing. Everything. It's just they're just trying to milk and extract and squeeze every little cent out of people.
the prices are already dropping. So you got to ask the question, what happens to prices if the foreclosures are allowed to let loose? There's around 900,000 homes on the market in the US right now. If we were to allow the 400,000 foreclosures to go through, that would increase inventory by about 40%, and it would probably double or triple inventory in neighborhoods like where I am right now in Fort Worth. You can see here in Dallas, data on ReVenture is showing that home prices are actually flat year over year across the metro, but are going down in most zip codes. So most zip codes in Dallas are experiencing declining prices, and in general, it's the lower income areas where the prices are dropping, the areas with more FHA, mortgage borrowers, the areas where the investors are selling, that's where the prices are dropping, while the higher income areas still have prices going up. And you can actually see here, folks, we have another house here for sale. Now this is from Starlight Homes. Now this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet on the market for $321,000. Still sitting here on the market. You can tell they got a lot more homes in inventory. And if you're wondering why the prices are dropping and why that seller over there had to cut from 320 to 280, it's because of the builder, right? So the builder over here is pricing a new home at 320, built in 2025. Well, if you bought the old version of that home in 2023, you can't sell it for 320, you got to drop the price. And so this is yet another example of these builders being very aggressive, delivering inventory onto the housing market. I showed you this in Florida over and over again. It's also happening here in Texas. And these builders, everyone, they got over 120,000 completed spec homes on the market right now. That's the highest level since August 2009. So think about this. We got the highest level of builder supply since the last crash. We have the highest level of FHA mortgage delinquencies since the last crash. Things are starting to really add up and show that the housing market is in a downturn here in 2025. Interestingly, we got a house here that's for rent. So this is another new build. It looks like the builder sold this to an investor. On Zillow, it says the investor's Brandywine Homes out of Atlanta. It was listed for $334, pulled from the market. Sometimes these investors will buy from the builders at a discount in bulk in an off-market deal. Well, they have it listed for rent at $2,200 a month. And the issue with that, everyone, the $2,200 a month rent, you can let me know whether you think that's fair, is the fact that if you were to buy this house with debt, which this investor did, and you were to pay the taxes and insurance and all that, it's going to be around $2,200 a month. You're actually not going to make any profit as an investor buying in these home building communities in Texas. With where mortgage rates are, with where property taxes are, your monthly payments are going to equal or even be higher than the rental rate that you can get. And these elevated mortgage payments in Texas are a big issue, right? Texas was always a state that was affordable, but it's no longer affordable for many borrowers, and it's the mortgage rates and the sky-high property taxes that are doing that. The average property tax rate in Texas is around 1.5%. Here in Dallas, Fort Worth, it's even higher than that, meaning that if you buy a house for $500 grand in Dallas-Fort Worth Metro,
500
your
grand.
property tax bill is probably gonna be $8,000 or $9,000 a year at least. It could even be above $10,000 a year. But back to this subprime issue, everyone, because there's just so many golden nuggets in this Wall Street Journal article. I would really encourage you guys to read it. They did some great reporting here, but it's just showing how messed up this whole program is. Again, it was done under the Biden administration. They basically took what these was supposed to be short-term pandemic mortgage relief, and they just extended it all the way to 2025. And their idea was to extend it indefinitely into the future so no one could ever be foreclosed on again. But the reason they were doing this was not out of the goodness of their hearts. They're not actually trying to protect the homeowners. They're simply trying to stop the inevitable flow of inventory from hitting the market and home prices going down. Because it would actually have been way better for these homeowners under the FHA mortgages who are in default. Again, it's 1 million in default, around 400,000 seriously delinquent. It would have been way better for someone who bought in one of these building communities in Texas in 2022 who went in default in 2023 to just sell their house in 2023. Instead, these government programs lowered their monthly payment, gave them incentive payments to stay in the house, and in many cases tacked on the missed interest to the mortgage amount. Meaning that if this borrower who was in default and didn't make the payments wants to go sell in the future, they're probably underwater. The Wall Street Journal article gave an example that if someone missed 5 payments of $4,000 a month, that'd be $20,000. In many cases, that $20,000 would be tacked onto the mortgage to be paid at payoff, but we all know in many cases that's never going to be paid, and the taxpayer is going to be on the hook for it. And this is something that should be in the crosshairs of Doge. This is one of the prime examples, and if Elon is serious about this, he has got to go into the FHA, stop this crazy program of mortgage forbearance, loss mitigation, paying borrowers so they don't get foreclosed on. I mean, how insane is that? What are we coming to as a country that our government is now doing that? Elon, you really gotta stop this from happening. Scott Turner, head of the FHA, you gotta stop this from happening. If anyone from the Trump administration is watching, this has got to be one of your foremost policy focuses, because we have to return fairness to the U.S. housing market. People who accept a low down payment mortgage and don't make their payment, sorry, you should get foreclosed on, and someone else should have the opportunity to buy the house. In addition, we should...
I like is the fairness. I think the fairness of the West. It's like, even though, you know, we've seen when COVID, how the government pretty much destroyed businesses, jobs, and so on. But the fairness of them, well, you couldn't make the payment, so you lose your home. Oh yeah, well, I mean, the U.S. engineer a lot of the problems, engineer a lot of the chaos. They make it so only a few people then keep their job, others don't. I mean, sure, the government actually in charge and does all those things, but the fairness to be fair, and it's all about separating people. It's really all about separating who gets to benefit in this fairness market. You know, yeah, as prices keep ballooning up and up in those homes, yeah, it is fair that only a select few people should be able to own a home. Because it's not owning a home is not right. Not in this country. No, it's not a right. It's only for a select few. Some of the right are people who have the money, people who have money. Everybody else should just live in squalor, really. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. The video's a little interesting. Let me know what you think about it. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Until next time.